welcome to the Cal Poly Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today we have Ben Hindson, the founder and chief scientific officer of 10x Genomics, joining us. Thank you so much, Ben, for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey and what led you to starting 10x Genomics?
Yeah, hi, and thanks for having me. Well, let's see. If we go back to the beginning and we start in chronological order, I'm originally from Australia. I had an opportunity after finishing my PhD in chemistry to get my first job, and I moved over here to Livermore. Actually, got my first job as a postdoc at Lawrence Livermore National Lab, and there we were working on biodefense, biosecurity type problems, and this was in 2002 when I first moved. So I got really lucky, found a great opportunity, took my bag, a bicycle, and a little bit of money, and then took the leap. And so that was my first job. It wasn't really a job, it was really fun for me, and I had a chance to work with some really amazing people. My background was in chemistry, but I got to work with engineers of all different disciplines, biologists, software people, and we were doing something really important at the time, essentially building like biosmoke alarms for anthrax detection and things like that. Being a young entrepreneurial spirit, I would say any opportunity that came my way, I signed myself up, and I got to have a lot of really great experiences in a pretty short amount of time. But I think the lesson that I learned there was like I was surrounded by amazing people who were really smart and really talented and really driven, and that gave me the opportunity to not only learn but see what's possible, and then work really hard. And I think with that, people recognized that I could do certain things, and I kept getting those opportunities. And so from there it was like I had a chance. A couple of my mentors said, "Hey, do you want to start a company?" And then so I said, "Yeah, that'd be awesome, sign me up." And so we actually started my first company with a few others. We founded a company here in Livermore. It was called QuantaLife, and this was in the life science tools sector, the same one that I'm in today. And we were building a new generation of technology that sort of measures DNA, and it was a way that you could count DNA molecules really accurately. And this is something that you need in biological research. So labs all around the world do something that's called PCR, which is a way to amplify and detect DNA. We just build a really, really highly precise counter, and we spent about 3 years doing that. And then we built a product. We sold our first versions of that product, and then to a number of customers around the US. And shortly thereafter, another bigger company expressed interest, and they ended up buying that company from us. And so after that, we sold the company to a company called Biorad. But along that journey, I also had a chance to not only work with some people that I knew previously, but also meet some new folks. And I met a person called Serge Saxonov, and he's now the CEO of 10x Genomics. Anyway, at this company, QuantaLife, we really enjoyed working together. And after the company was sold and we transitioned that technology, we took some time off, Serge and I, and just sitting around one day, Serge called me up and said, "Hey, what are you up to? Would you like to get together for a coffee?" And so we did that. We met up in San Francisco in a coffee shop, and what are we going to do next? Well, wouldn't it be good to do a company together? And so that's when we thought, yeah, let's go for it. And we started 10x Genomics. And that was in summer 2012. And here we are in late summer 2025.
Awesome. So it seems like you've had a really long journey, and it's been full of like ups and downs, I'd say. So what were some of the biggest challenges you faced in the early days of building 10x Genomics, and kind of what kept you motivated through those challenges?
I think what keeps us motivated, and the reason why we started the company, is thinking back to the mission that we have, which is really to advance human health. And We can do that by building better tools to understand the complexity of biology, and that was our mission. And so in order to do that, there's lots of challenges along the way. Starting a company is easy. Actually following through on what you think you're going to do and what maybe you've promised other people you're going to do can be difficult, but that's part of the fun. And so, we had some additional ideas. We raised some money, like a few $1 million, and then, some of our first meetings was, well, how are you going to solve these challenges that you're outlining? And we said, we don't know. That's why we need your money. We're going to hire some really smart people and we're going to go figure it out. And that's sort of like been the mentality that we've had. We know there's going to be challenges, but when you get smart people together, you can pretty much solve any problem. And then by taking lessons we learned from prior experiences, like solving one particular problem, it's better to have it solved, the solution be from a lot of different angles. So that's where the multidisciplinary approach comes into play. When everybody's sitting around the table and has different ideas, we can melt those together and we end up with something that's far more elegant and optimal and better for the business than if any one person just had their idea and we ran with it. So I think lots of challenges along the way, technical, legal, organizational, culture-wise, but there's also been a lot of fun, and we think we can solve just about anything that comes our way. So when you wake up in the morning, like you're excited to go to work, we know there's always something waiting for us to come and figure out, and that's how the kind of attitude, and we always do that with the best people and the brightest minds.
So it seems like having a strong team besides you and teamwork is really important in your journey. What's like some qualities or traits would you look for in someone who you want on your team?
Well, we take talent very seriously. So obviously having smart people that are driven, people who like to take a step back and think from how you would solve a problem from first principles is how Serge likes to frame it. And also people who can work well with others. You got to appreciate the value of collaboration. People who are driven by the same mission that we have. And we put the we before me. And so, I think as going through this journey, I used to think culture was something HR would just kind of talk about in a fluffy way, but coming to, thinking back on it, we actually really appreciated the culture. We just didn't really recognize it. And so at 10X, Serge Saxonov, who I mentioned, our CEO, he took the time to write this out and write what we value, and he wrote up a nice document, and that's essentially mostly what we follow. We were kind of doing it anyway, but actually writing things down and explicitly and providing some examples really helps to know whether this is the right company for you. And then it also helps you make decisions and keeps it the place that we want people to come and solve hard problems and enjoy coming to work.
And then when was the moment, so you started 10X Genomics in 2012, and it's more than 10 years past that now, we're in 2025. When was the moment in your journey when you realized that 10X Genomics had finally made it and the idea worked?
Well, I guess it depends like how you define made it. I would say we've come a long way, but I would really like to say we've just getting started. So I wouldn't say we've made it. I think when we think we've made it, I would say that, our technology is used universally for things like diagnostics, making decisions to help improve people's healthcare and quality of life. We're still in the research market, so that's a journey, and we still have to get there. But personally, I had some goals. I thought when I was coming over here, wouldn't it be fun to take a company public? And I had the opportunity to do that back in 2019, and we went out to New York, and we got to ring the bell and get our faces up on Times Square and that was a nice achievement. That was one of my personal goals. And but there's always more to do. and I'd like to be the company that can be sort of like a long-standing company, and we built that from the start, and we wanted to have long-standing impact. So it's the century of biology is what we tell ourselves, and we're only early into that. So we got a lot of work to do to really understand the complexity of biology and be able to master that.
Yeah, I think that's a great mindset to have. You never want to get complacent or look on what you've done. You want to keep working towards a goal.
Yeah.
So the last question I have for us today is that if you could leave Cal Poly students with one advice about building a company or something impactful, what would it be?
I would say, you're obviously talented because you're at Cal Poly. Bright engineers and other disciplines there. You probably made some good colleagues and people that you probably enjoy working with. If you have an idea, ideas are great. Like maybe flesh it out with some others, get some advice. Advice is typically free. And if you think there's something there that's going to make an impact and also it's also got to be a good business, right? Take some risks at the appropriate time. Surround yourself with great people. It takes hard work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, but if you stick at it, usually your first idea, like if you're thinking like, what would this look like in 10 years from now? And that's going to make an impact, you're probably right. Don't get too enamored with how you think you're going to solve that problem, because it's going to change no matter what you think over time. Like how you get there, the route might change. But I think if you've got like a really important problem, you've got something that you think with the right team you can solve it and the right backing, then you got to take some risks, work hard, achieve each milestone to keep driving up value and prove that you're doing what you said you were going to do, and then be passionate about it. You work this hard through your studies and everything, and you got to do something that you really enjoy. Then it doesn't really feel like work. And you should be pumped up to go do whatever you're going to do. So that day you wake up, you're like, I'm going to go do this today. When you get home, you're like, wow, I really kicked some butt today, and I'm ready to go in and tackle it again tomorrow. And so, keep a positive attitude, take some risks, work hard, and have some fun along the way.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ben, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.